this.
Look, Mom, I'm on YouTube. I must have made it. Nobody thought I'd ever make it. Here I am on YouTube. Today what we're going to discuss is biomechanics of the spine, why it's so valuable to understand the biomechanics, because if you don't understand what normal is, you can't tell if something is abnormal, and if you're working to change it, how do you know if you ever get to normal or if you're ever improving it? And we're going to get into eventually how to measure things so that we can prove, disprove, and improve what we're looking at. But it's important to start with the basic biomechanical model. How do things function? How does the spine actually work? We tend to think that it's 24 pieces parts. It's not. It functions as 6 units. And those units are broken down not only by the muscles that origin and insert into them and how they do that, but also neurologically. How we created this system, not just through how it was created by Mom and Dad, but how it was created through the crawling system. You go through 2 different kinds of crawling, and those crawling systems create what we know as the primary and secondary curves, which creates what we call the couple mechanism, the couple system. So when we look at the spine from the front, it should be straight up and down. You might meet one of those in your entire career, okay? And it's probably you, and it's because you fixed yourself. Here is, from the side, the curve system looks like this. And it's broken down into units. Unit 1 is the skull and C1. We call it C0, C1, which is Unit 1. Unit 2 is C2 through 4. And then there's a pivot that is C5. Then Unit 3 is C5 down to T7. T7 is also a pivot. 3, 4 is from T8 down to L3. L3 is also a pivot. And then you get Unit 5, which is L4 and 5. And then Unit 6 is the sacrum and pelvis. If we want to add 6, we've also got Unit 7s, 8, and 9, which is the femur. 7, 8 is the tibia, and 9 is the foot. That's the biomechanical system. Notice how it creates angles that ultimately create a curve system. That curve system is vital to create those lever arms. A lever arm is like a stick, right? When you move a stick, it moves. The entire stick, not just groups. Like Unit 2 should be a stick. On most people it's not. It's 24 pieces parts all doing all kinds of things. But we need to train it to do that, and the way they should have trained that is through crawling. C5 is a pivot that Unit 2 gets moved by. And so the fulcrum exercises, when we get into fulcrum exercises, we're going to be laying them on molds that will cause them to use that pivot and to pivot that arm, that lever arm, the way it's intended to work, the way we should have gotten it through crawling. So, but this is the curve system. Why do we need that curve system? Vital. We call it coupling. When you hear the word coupling, when a doctor says it, he's normally going to say rotation and lateral flexion go together, and that's a textbook answer. But the real reason we have coupling is it's an energy conversion system. We're going to convert lateral flexion into rotation, and it is the curve system that allows us to do that. Lordosis to kyphosis to lordosis to kyphosis. It allows us to create that environment to where the big lateral flexor muscles, like the trapezius, like the latissimus dorsi, like the quadratus lumborum, and they're all attached to big broad-based lever arms. When we get a lateral flexion, a left lateral flexion in the lumbar spine, we're going to get a clockwise rotation if we have the curve system, because that coupling mechanism grinds that lateral flexion with that powerful quadratus lumborum into rotation. And so that's why it's so important. Also, having that curved system takes all the pressure off of the spinal cord. When we lose the curve, it stretches the cord, according to Alf Brieg. And he said that it not only decreases the flow of energy through the cord and through the nerves, but also he says that it decreases the blood flow. And that's where the real problem begins. When we have pressure stretching on the brainstem, he called it the pons cord tract, the pressure on the brainstem, spinal cord, all the way to the bottom, we decrease the blood flow, which causes the cord to be sick, and therefore it doesn't function as well as it could. And we see a lot of that, patients that over a long period of time decrease in their blood flow, they truly are frail and very weak. And as we get them into molding, and as they get that curved system, holding that curved system for periods of time, they start to get stronger and stronger. And that's an evidence of that. Okay, let's go ahead.